So when it comes to rapid revision program under the tag called Brahmastra. So hope everyone is is going to attempt, right? Number one. Number two, hope everyone might have completed at least a reading, right? Because rapid revision program, all are Telugus or non-Telugus? So Maharashtra, good. So able to understand Telugu? No, koi baat nahi. So ikkada the main motto of RRPs, just like some sort of brush up classes. You're supposed not to depend on entire classes. Whatever the syllabus you have, syllabus copy. So for example, today I'll be going to give the so-called chapterization of entire history, to be specific, ancient Indian history. Based on that, like you can come and attend the classes, right? Sure. So let us not waste time. We'll start with ancient Indian history. What are the topics and subtopics we're going to learn in subsequent classes? And ancient Indian history, which has got totally 8 chapters. In fact, entire Indian history broadly divided into 20 chapters. Out of 20 chapters, ancient, which has got totally 8 chapters, followed by medieval, 5 chapters, and when it comes to modern, 7 chapters. So 8, 5, 7, totally 20 chapters. So when you go through syllabus, you come across all these topics. Now, what was the motto behind in classification, or like on what basis the respective topics which we found in competitive exams, be it UPSC, be it APPSC, TGPSC, and so the main motto happened to be chronology. So based on chronology, based on timeline, the entire chapter is divided into 20, right? So first one, prehistoric cultures, Indus Valley civilization, Vedic civilization, pre-Mauryan age, post-Mauryan age, Guptan age, and post-Guptan age. So as far as prehistoric cultures are concerned, we have from earliest to 2500 BC. I'm talking about the span of prehistoric cultures. So what does it mean by from earliest to 2500 BC? And when I say from earliest, right from the evolution of prehistoric men, you call Homo sapiens, right? So right from the beginning to 2500 BC. So whatever the events which happened the respective period, so they were called as prehistoric cultures. We have Paleolithic cultures, Mesolithic cultures, Neolithic cultures, Chalcolithic cultures, Megalithic cultures. So once we're done with cultures, prehistoric cultures, we are going to have the glance of Indus Valley civilization, whose span was 2500 BC to 1750 BC. Timeline. So when you understand timeline, let me tell you, at least when you go through previous question papers of at least a decade, you come across 5 to 6 questions only in timeline, which I'll be going to get previous year questions. Every chapter, at least like say 5 to 6 questions we're going to discuss, which we found in previous exams. Okay, timeline yokka pradhanyata enti annappudu mana questions paddayi. Indus Valley civilization 2500 BC to 1750 BC, where I'll be going to speak the respective characteristic features of Indus Valley civilization. Jaisa ki we have a town planning, right? Society, economy, religion. So these are the areas where we found questions, be it in general studies mains and even prelims. So be good at syllabus followed by previous year question papers. When you go through previous year question papers, you can mold your preparation, how the questions are being asked, what are the areas, like they're a little bit going deeply. Here we are not here to read right from page 1 to last page, no. Selected topics. Iska matlab hai ki we are going to ignore other topics, no. Focused areas. ఈ ఫోకస్డ్ ఏరియాస్ అనేవి మనం ఇక్కడ డిస్కస్ చేస్తాం. టెక్నికల్ టర్మ్స్ ఏంటి ఇవన్నీ మనం ఇక్కడ డిస్కస్ చేస్తాం, రైట్? సో ఇండస్ వ్యాలీ సివిలైజేషన్ 2500 BC to 1750 BC. When it comes to Vedic civilization, 1500 BC to 600 BC. Early Vedic period, later Vedic period. Literature, Shruti literature, Smriti literature. How early Vedic institutions, economic institutions in early Vedic period can also be called as Rigvedic period, 1500 BC to 1000 BC. You also call them Sapta Sindhu Aryans, we call them. How their economy was. With this background, you have to understand what kind of changes which we found in Gangetic Basin or Gangetic economy or Gangetic Aryans. You have to read social institutions of early Vedic period. With this background, you have to understand what kind of changes which took place in later Vedic society. Class का मतलब क्या होता है, caste का मतलब क्या होता है, अनुलोम विवाह, प्रतिलोम विवाह, because all these areas, previous question. Especially Vedic civilization, when you understand Vedic civilization, let me tell you the remaining topics of ancient Indian history or Hindu Indian history, it's a kind of cakewalk. Once we're done with Vedic civilization, I'll be going to take up the summary of pre-Mauryan age 600 BC to 400 BC. మన pre-Mauryan age లో కేవలం 2 topics, పొలిటికల్ కండిషన్స్, రిలీజియస్ కండిషన్స్. ఈ పొలిటికల్ కండిషన్స్లో భాగంగా ఐడియా ఉండొచ్చు మహాజనపదాస్, one of the famous areas for prelims exams. On one hand, names of the capitals, on the other hand, names of the kingdoms and names of the capitals. Besides, we also found questions, arrange them into north to south. What? Mahajanapadas. Names of the kingdoms, names of the capitals, మామూలు కొట్టమన్నమాట, కొంచెం అక్కడికి ముందుకి తీసుకెళ్తాడు. Arrange them from west to east. Unless you know what are the 16 Mahajanapadas, unless you know their locations, you can't answer such kind of questions. So the main motto of any public service commission, right from UPSC to APPSC, TGPSC, even Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, whatever public service commissions you belong to, their main motto is to eliminate. कहाँ पे? Prelims में. यहाँ पे eliminate करना है. Because you can't be eliminated in mains, right? వాళ్ళు ఎలిమినేట్ చేయాలంటే వాళ్ళు ఎక్కడి నుంచో క్వశ్చన్ తీసుకురావు, ఉన్న దాంట్లో నుంచి కొంచెం డీప్కి వెళ్తారు, కొంచెం ట్విస్ట్ చేస్తారు. ఆ ఏరియాస్ని ఇక్కడ ఫోకస్ చేయాలి, రైట్? సో ఈ pre-Mauryan ఏజ్లో భాగంగా, as I was telling, we are going to learn 2 topics. The summary, the first one is Mahajanapadas, followed by Jainism and Buddhism. The second topic, religious conditions, we call it. And when it comes to Jainism and Buddhism అన్నప్పుడు, the maximum questions when you come across in prelims, we found on philosophies. Observe చేయాలి, questions observe చేయాలి, the nature of questions observe చేయాలి. ఆత్మ అంటాడు, పరమాత్మ అంటాడు, ప్రేతాత్మ అంటాడు, కాంచన 1, కాంచన 2 మొత్తం కొట్టాడు అన్నమాట. ఎగ్జామ్ అయిపోయి మన ఆత్మ బయటికి వెళ్తుంది. Philosophies and which you might have studied as part of Upanishads. We have Shruti literature and Smriti literature, right? ఈ శృతిలో భాగంగా we have 4 Vedas, 7 Aranyakas, 7 Brahmanas and how many Upanishads? 108 Upanishads. Upanishads, like, where you come across various philosophies. Atma, Paramatma, Janma, Punarjanma, transmigration of soul. ఈ philosophers మీదనే you come across Jainism and Buddhism. Theist का मतलब क्या होता है, atheist का मतलब क्या होता है. ఇంకొక ఆయన పెద్ద సార్ ఉంటాడు, ఆయన అగ్నాస్టిక్ అంటాం ఆయన ఉంటాడు, రైట్? జైనిజం, డిడ్ జైనిజం బిలీవ్ ఇన్ గాడ్ అంటాడు, డిడ్ బుద్ధిజం బిలీవ్ ఇన్ గాడ్ అంటాడు, డిడ్ అజీవికా రిలీజన్ బిలీవ్ ఇన్ కర్మ థియరీ, ట్రాన్స్మైగ్రేషన్ థియరీ. అన్లెస్ యు నో ద సో కాల్డ్ ఫిలాసఫీస్, యూ కాంట్ ఆన్సర్ సచ్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ క్వశ్చన్స్, రైట్? సో ఓన్లీ 2 topics. పొలిటికల్ కండిషన్స్లో భాగంగా మహాజనపదాస్, రిలీజియస్ కండిషన్స్లో భాగంగా జైనిజం అండ్ బుద్ధిజం. నౌ కమ్ టు Mauryan age. The span of Mauryan age 400 BC to 200 BC. 200 years. Pre-Mauryan age 200 years. Mauryan age 200 years. As far as Mauryan age is concerned, you have to focus on the 3 famous political personalities, Chandragupta Maurya, Bindusara and Ashoka. That's it. And I would say much focus would be given on Mauryan Ashoka, especially his Dhamma, Ashoka's Dhamma. Besides Ashoka's Dhamma, what kind of contributions made by Mauryan Ashoka to Buddhism? No, once you done with Mauryan Ashoka's contributions, adi Dhamma gavachu, Buddhism gavachu, you have to focus on administration, because భారతదేశంలో మొట్టమొదటిసారిగా ఒక వ్యవస్థీకృతమైన పరిపాలన ఎవరు ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేశారన్నప్పుడు మౌర్యన్స్. An organized administration in India introduced by Mauryans. In fact, the same Mauryans, who brought political unity for the first time in India. What do we call today? Akhand Bharat. మనం ఇంగ్లీష్లో ఏమంటామంటే ఇండియన్ సబ్ కాంటినెంట్, భారత ఉపఖండము అంటాం. ఈ భారత ఉపఖండాన్ని మొట్టమొదటిసారిగా ఎవరు తీసుకొచ్చారు అంటే ఒకే పరిపాలన తీసుకొచ్చారు, ఇట్స్ అండ్ మౌర్యన్స్ అంటాం. Whatever administrative institutions introduced by Mauryans, even today we follow them. Forget about even today, subsequent rulers also followed, obviously with minor changes. A minor changes mean the focus generally. Followed by post-Mauryan age, 200 BC to 300 AD. ఇక్కడ BC నుంచి మనం ADలోకి రావడం జరుగుతుంది. 200 BC to 300 AD, the history of 500 years. Another extremely important area for prelims exam, as I was telling, based on timeline lo manaki ikkada 2 questions adigaru. Post Mauryan age, let me tell you, the most neglected part of aspirants. I'm not talking about neglected part of competitive exams, neglected part of aspirants, because full of confusion. Manaku నార్త్ వెస్టర్న్ ఇండియాలో కొన్ని డినాసిటీస్ ఉంటాయి. Can anyone? What are the dynasties which ruled over north western India from 200 BC to 300 AD? Foreign dynasties. What are they? కొంచెం గట్టిగా. Very good. Indo-Greeks అంటాం, followed by Shakas, followed by Parthians and Kushans. Now come to North India, Shungas, Kanvas and Ganarajas, Republican states. Come to Eastern India, we have Kalinga, Chedi dynasty, Kalinga Kharavela, Hathigumfa inscription. Come down to Deccan, Deccan was ruled by Balaya Babu dynasty, Amma Shatavana. Right? Now come down to Peninsular India, South India, Cholas, North Tamil Nadu, Pandyas, South Tamil Nadu, and Cheras, Malabar. This is a political map of post-Mauryan age. Now when you go through previous question papers, you come across, when Shungas were ruling over North India, which one of the following dynasties ruling over Deccan and South India? Gone. Right? Unless you know the political map. I'm not saying you have to focus extremely on political history. Political history extremely unimportant for UPSC. Then why did they ask? Because this is the most neglected part, number 1, by aspirants. Number 2, confused part. Our dynasty, E dynasty, lot of these rulers, అవసరం పక్కన పెట్టండి, మనం పక్కన పెడతాం, వాళ్ళు తీసుకుంటారు. Right? Whenever you feel which is important, మన అదృష్టం ఏంటంటే the so-called UPSC aspirants అదృష్టం ఏంటంటే whenever you feel this is an important, keep in mind that becomes an important for UPSC. దాన్ని మనం చాలా పాజిటివ్గా అంటామంటే కిస్మత్ అంటాం, తలరాత, విధిరాత, నియతి, అజీవికా ఫిలాసఫీ. సో డోంట్ బీ ద సో కాల్డ్ సెల్ఫ్ ప్రొక్లెయిమ్డ్ ఆస్పిరెంట్స్. కొంతమంది చెప్తారు, బా ఇది అవసరం లేదు, దీన్ని చదవక, నువ్వు అవసరం లేదు, ఎందుకంటే 2-3 సార్లు రాసింటాడు, ఆయన చెప్తాడు చదవకని చెప్పి, అన్న చెప్పాడు కదా, బామార్ది చెప్పాడు కదా, చదవడం అనమాట. కట్ చేస్తే అక్కడి నుంచి క్వశ్చన్స్ వస్తాయి. సరే ఆయనకి 2-3 అక్షింతలు పడితే దట్ ఈస్ అనదర్ స్టోరీ. అక్షింతలు పడినా ఏమంది, యూ హ్యావ్ టు వెయిట్ ఫర్ 1 more year, if not 1.5 years. What I'm trying to convey, you have to read each and every topic of the respective syllabus. I'm not instructing you people do PhD, right? What is what kind of? If the question comes, at least you shall in a position to eliminate. Okay, Indo-Greeks are the famous dynasty in northwestern India, that is Kushans. Okay, Kushans. When Kushans were ruling over northwestern India, in Deccan we found Shatavahanas. In North India we found Sangam kingdoms. Enough, right? at least we shall in a position to eliminate and right. So you have to focus on this, right? Post-Mauryan age. And besides, another important area to be focused as part of post-Mauryan age, that is socio-economic and cultural history. Because we found abnormal changes in post-Mauryan age. So many reasons. One of the major reasons happened to be the revival of Brahmanical institutions. The Brahmanical institutions which shattered to pieces in post-Mauryan age because of the rise of Jainism and Buddhism. For about 400 years, the Brahmanical institutions almost got disappeared. Or they got dead, you call it. Now from post-Mauryan age onwards, we found a revival of Brahmanical institutions. So we found abnormal changes in post-Mauryan age society, economy and culture. And one of the most important focused areas by all competitive exams, 3 art forms, Gandhara art, Mathura art and Amaravati. Gandhara school of art, how Buddha looks like in Gandhara art. What kind of sculptures made by Mathura and Amaravati in the respective schools of art. We found so many differences between Gandhara, Mathura and Amaravati. We found few differences between Mathura school and Amaravati school. E areas with the focus here, right? It's all about, now come to Guptan age. The span of Guptan age, that is 300 AD to 550 AD, the history of 250 years. Elagayithe manaku Mauryan age lo 3 rulers, even Guptan age lo kuda 3 rulers. Chandragupta the first, Samudragupta followed by Chandragupta the second, or Chandragupta Vikramaditya. That's it. Because Chandragupta Vikramaditya was associated with Navaratnas, the 9 scholars patronized by the gentleman. And Samudragupta, popularly called as Indian Napoleon, obviously, Konni, political victories. Followed by administration, it went on. Now, come to general conditions of Guptan age, we found Sati got revived and followed by Deva Das, one of the famous areas. Previous questions chustundali. Which one of the following factor was not responsible for the rise of Devadasi system in Guptan society? Unless you know what factors were responsible for the rise of Devadasi system, you can't eliminate this. Sati got revived with a new term called Pattini cult, and even we also found one of the social institutions even today, we have in society, that is dowry system. Historically, we are talking about all these institutions historically. Dowry system, Devadasi system, followed by Sati got revived under the tag called Pattini cult. And when it comes to economy, followed by culture. Culture lo bhanga, we have temple architecture. In temple architecture, you might be knowing, we found 3 what we call distinctive styles. In North India, what is the name of this style? In North India, what is the name of this style? Nagara style, otherwise called as Shikhara style. North Indian temples are built in Nagara or Shikhara style. Come down to Deccan, what is the name of the style? Vesara style. Now, Peninsular India or South India, Dravidian style. You have to be good at what are the features of Nagara style and Dravida style. Keeping aside Vesara, because Vesara is a mixture of both these styles. We found Nagara features and Dravida features. So you have to be good at the features of Nagara and Dravida, which I'll be going to speak very briefly. Take an example of Nagara style. When you talk about Nagara style ni ye dynasty introduce chesindi? Evaru introduce chesindu? Name of the dynasty gurtu pettukoవాలి. Number 1. Number 2, which dynasty added new features to it? That's it. 2 areas for prelims exam. Name of the dynasty which was responsible for introducing the style and construction, the same style, and the respective subsequent dynasties evituntayo, the respective dynasties might have got added new features to it. That's it. After the same towards Vesara style and even Dravidian style. Let me pose very general question. You might be knowing. Which dynasty introduced Dravidian style in South India? Pallava dynasty. Good. Which dynasty might have added new features to it? Cholas of Tanjore. This is not rocket science, right? చిన్న ప్రొఫార్మా ఉంటుంది, ఆ ప్రొఫార్మాని మనం మెల్లగా గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాలి. ఒక డినాసిటీ ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేసి ఉండొచ్చు, సబ్సిక్వెంట్ డినాసిటీస్ యాడ్ చేసి ఉండొచ్చు. ఎందుకు యాడ్ చేసి ఉండొచ్చు? ఫర్ వేరియస్ రీజన్స్, ఫర్ వేరియస్ నీడ్స్, యూ కాల్ ఇట్ social needs, cultural needs, maybe economic prosperity, maybe vastness of an empire, maybe vastness of the so-called cultural institutions. For various reasons, like the respective features might have added. That's it. Now, finally, post-Guptan age. As far as post-Guptan age is concerned, 550 AD to 750 AD, or mid-8th century AD, where you have to focus three famous personalities. One among them was Harshavardhana, one among them was Pulakeshin II, and Narasimhavarman I. That's it. Non-political history. Obviously, if possible, like you have to focus on geopolitical conflicts. Geopolitical conflicts. Can anyone, what is this geopolitical conflicts? Geopolitical conflicts का मतलब क्या होता है? Land between what does it mean by geopolitical conflicts? Fight for land. Which kind of land? Fertile lands. Geopolitical conflicts annappudu political conflicts for the sake of geography. That's it. What kind of geography? Fertile lands. మనం పాస్ట్గా ఏమంటామంటే దోఆబ్ టెరిటరీస్ అంటాం ఇన్ పర్షియన్ లాంగ్వేజ్. టూ ఆబ్ రివర్స్, రెండు నదుల మధ్య ప్రాంతము, ఫర్టైల్ ల్యాండ్స్. అది మనకు కేజీ బేసిన్ కావచ్చు, కృష్ణా గోదావరి బేసిన్, కృష్ణా తుంగభద్ర బేసిన్ కావచ్చు, అదర్వైజ్ కాల్డ్ యాజ్ రైచూర్ దోఆబ్, అండ్ ఈవెన్ Ganga Yamuna basin కావచ్చు, otherwise called as canals. That's it. At least half a dozen battles you have to remember under the tag called geopolitical conflicts. You have to remember those battles which might have changed the very course of history. Alanti battles ni gurtu pettukondi. Not all lot of these battles. No. For example, take an example of Battle of Kalinga. Battle of Kalinga, 261 BC. What is the significance of Battle of Kalinga? So Battle of Kalinga fought between Mauryan forces or Mauryan Ashoka and Kalingan forces. Kalingan forces got defeated. Good. Now the question is, why we shall remember the Battle of Kalinga? What is the significance of Battle of Kalinga? It brought revolutionary changes in the very personality of Ashoka. What kind of changes? Koncham gattiga. Non-violence. What does it mean? He abandoned warfare activities. ఒక యుద్ధంలో విజయం సాధించి యుద్ధాలను త్యజించిన రాజు ఉంటాం ఈసారి. Having got victory in a war and he abandoned warfare activities. He might have got defeated in the war. Navala kaadu. That is like a common tradition we found throughout history. But in spite of getting a war, abandoned warfare activities. If no Battle of Kalinga, forget about Buddhism getting the name and fame called international religion. Forget about getting the so-called socio-ethical moral code. What we prefer to call it as Dhamma. Kalinga Yuddham jaragapothe unni vachi unde kabatti. Don't you think this is a radical change? Don't you think this changed the very course of history? Yes. Ilanti yuddhalanu gurtu pettukovali. Not all battles. I repeat, you have to remember those battles which might have changed the very course of history. For example, take an example of Panipat the First. Battle of Panipat the First, 1526. The battle fought between Babur forces and Ibrahim Lodi forces. Outcome. What is the significance of Battle of Panipat the First? Very good. Delhi Sultanate was replaced by Mughal Sultanate. The Sultanate, which was established by Kutubuddin Aibak in 1206, got collapsed like pack of cards because of one shot. Now we found one more empire. You have to remember these kind of battles, not all battles. Don't consider history as a kind of like, telephone dictionary where you get numbers and names and all. No. You have to focus on socio-economic and cultural institutions, how these institutions got evolved. Even let me pose one more question, that is Battle of Plassey, 1757. The battle fought between Bengal forces and English East India Company. What was the outcome? English East India Company got victory. What is the significance? Right. Establishment of British rule. If no Battle of Plassey, forget about English journey on Indian soil. Ilanti battles no, right? Good to bed. Chalo. So as I was telling, geopolitical conflicts annappudu, we found ugly conflicts between Badami Chalukyas and Pallavas. Badami Chalukyas of Deccan and Pallavas of South India. Can anyone, what was the source of conflict between Badami Chalukyas of Deccan and Pallavas of South India? KG Basin, Krishna Godavari Basin. That's it. At least two major battles good to it. And obviously, Pulakesh II and Narasimhavarman I. We also found such kind of geopolitical conflicts between North Indian rulers, that is Pushyabhuti dynasty, Harshavardhana and Badami Chalukyas. Mali reason enti ante Narmada Basin ante. That's it. And besides, we have cultural contributions. Harshavardhana's contributions to culture, oka list untundi. Badami Chalukyans, they contributed a lot to temple architecture, to be specific, rock cut cave temples and structural temples. When it comes to South India, it was South India or Pallavans who were responsible for introduction of Dravidian style, right? Built XYZ temples and all. That's it. It's all about ancient Indian history, which has got totally 8 chapters. And once we're done with ancient Indian history, like, the summary of ancient Indian history, we're going to learn the same strategy for medieval and modern, right? Now, with this background, start with prehistoric cultures.